Welcome, Christina and Lori, to the show. We're so happy to have you.
It's great to be here. Thanks.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So you are both part of an organization called Jane Does Well, right? And I believe that you have some very interesting information to share with us today about registering with Mass.Gov for a Citizen Speak session. So please tell us a little bit about why it's important to register and what the trial court child support guidelines review process meeting is about. That is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful. Well, I'll start by saying that Jane Does Well is a nonprofit organization that supports and empowers women confronting divorce. And we're firmly in the women empowerment space. So our mission is to make a difference in women's lives with knowledge, education, support, and compassion. So we are now close to 450 women in Massachusetts, and it's just a resource. It's a rich resource of compassionate, intelligent, and forward-thinking women whose mission is to support and empower each other.
We've really been focused recently on something that's happening right now. Right now, the Massachusetts task force is in the process of revising the child support guidelines, and the task force only meets every 4 years. So therefore, it's really vital for us to make the public aware of this time frame. An important part of this review process is the upcoming public forum, which is going to be at the end of this month, end of January. And this gives any member of the public a chance to speak. Any member that wants to speak. There's 3 different days in January. It's an open forum. Jane Does Well will definitely be presenting at the upcoming forum. The reason being is because we created an awareness committee this summer after so many members in our community told us about the devastating effects created by the decade-long decreases in child support under the guidelines. So we did a lot of research, and through this research, we discovered a lot of really appalling and concerning facts. For the last decade, child support amounts have been continually decreased, while the cost of living in Massachusetts has increased substantially. This is causing an increase in the poverty rate of children and their custodial parents in Massachusetts. The financial burden is especially dire for low-income families. Massachusetts families have a much higher cost of living than almost every other state in the nation. Housing, like rents and housing, is 80% higher. Childcare is 90% higher, just for an example, the national averages. And yet, at the same time, when these expenses are taken into account, Massachusetts child support amounts are 36 to 70% lower than amounts in our neighboring states. One of the largest drivers, as I just mentioned, behind the higher cost of living in Massachusetts is childcare. Childcare enables both parents to work and support their family. Most states add this expense to the basic child support amount and then allocate this cost to parents in proportion to their income in order to share the cost equitably between parents. I said most states, unfortunately, not Massachusetts. Our state imposes a 15% cap on the non-custodial parent's child support obligation for child care expenses. Massachusetts is the only state in the nation that caps the cost of childcare for the non-custodial parent and orders that custodial parents who work pay for almost all of their childcare costs. Massachusetts shifts the burden of paying for childcare almost entirely to the custodial parent, who is also doing the unpaid work of child rearing. And this is a very concerning issue happening right now in Massachusetts.
Yeah, Rama, and that's not all. In 2017, Massachusetts imposed an automatic 25% reduction in child support when a child turns 18. This policy further burdens families living on a custodial parent's wages and child support, and the trial court, considered to be the arbiter of evidence and facts, changed the public policy to relieve the non-custodial parent's obligation because of an assumption based on unsupported and unsubstantiated anecdotal evidence. There were no facts, not a single shred of evidence, and no qualifying information as to the actual consumption of the child used to justify the trial court's policy decision. And the reality is that costs increase, not decrease, for the 18 to 23-year-old age group, whether these adult children live at home or reside temporarily away at college.
Right, and those are the years that kids are at college.
Right.
And that's expensive. That's almost double, what they cost when they're at home living with you, right? So clearly Jane Does Well has done a lot of research on this. So tell us, how easy is it to register via the Mass.Gov website page for the trial court child support guideline review process?
Well, we're hoping many custodial parents are able to tell their stories to the public. It's easy to register. If you see the link that we've provided, the task force is also accepting public comments until January 26th. We encourage everyone to send anything child support related to the task force, send an email. You can register to the upcoming public forum and send comments to child support. It's an email address. It's childsupport@jud.state.ma.us. And the public forums will be held via Zoom on Thursday, January 21st from 4 to 6, and Friday, January 22nd from 11 to 1, and Tuesday, January 26th from 2 to 4.
So the January 26th deadline, what is that again for? Is that for the email?
Yes, it is.
Sure.
Yes.
And then in order for the public speak, people would have to register by or before the 21st.
That's correct.
January.
Yeah.
Great. And then we're going to post the link here so that people have a chance to write that down and to paste that into their web browsers. Okay. So in addition to the child care cap and the reduction by 25% when the child turns 18, what are the other concerns associated with the calculating and the process?
Right. No, thanks, Rama, for asking that. There's another alarming factor in Massachusetts child support guidelines. As we all know, child support expenses increase when additional children are added to the family. In child support calculations, what happens is there's an adjustment or a multiplier that's added when additional children are added to compensate for these additional expenses. The current adjustments for number of children used to calculate child support for additional children in Massachusetts is significantly lower, almost 50% lower than national averages and adjoining state benchmarks. For example, Massachusetts guidelines increase child support for 2 children by only 25%, while the national average is an increase of 50%. For 3 children, Massachusetts increases child support by only 38%, while the national average is an increase of 70%. These lower multiples in Massachusetts result in 20% lower child support for 2 children and 33% lower child support for 3 children compared to national averages and adjoining state benchmarks. By not adjusting the custodial parent support for multiple children to benchmark levels, the current child support guidelines are hurting custodial parents with multiple children by significantly reducing their total support.
And that is a very huge discrepancy in numbers. Christina.
And Mama, I just wanted to add, there's another thing. Massachusetts is the only state in the nation that denies custodial parents alimony because they have children and their combined household income is less than $250,000. No other state in the nation does this because child support is designed purely for the sustenance of the child. Custodial parents are receiving less support for having children than they would have received if they were childless. If the same amount in income is calculated for child support and then calculated for alimony, the child support recipient receives less income. Essentially, custodial parents are hit with a child penalty or tax.
Wow. Wow, that's shocking.
Mm-hmm.
It is shocking.
It is. And so tell us, why do you feel it's essential for custodial parents to then register and speak up at this forum?
Right. We believe the current state of child support in Massachusetts is a devastating public policy, and it needs to be addressed and corrected. The voices of the public and the parents whose children are affected need to be heard. And the only way to be heard in this process is to present at the public forum in January. Like I said, it happens every 4 years. It's currently meeting right now. And these public forums are designed for the public to speak. And it's vital that any issues that are out there be raised to the task force in this time.
It's almost as if you're doing the custodial courts a favor by providing them with data and anecdotal evidence that they could then rely upon to go through their review process.
Yes, I think that it is kind of beneficial to have a little bit of more of a point of view. Definitely, we come to this point of view because of members, because of our community. We were alerted to this situation because of women suffering from the burden that they are faced with. The amount of child support to live on, the kinds of wages that they can earn, and then also having the real work that's not paid of child rearing.
Right. I think nationally, there's a Wall Street Journal article that came out a couple of years ago that estimated that each stay-at-home custodial parent should be paid about $350,000 a year for the child rearing that they do. So,
yeah,
not surprising.
There's not a state that we know of. Definitely Massachusetts does not quantify in any way the actual child rearing responsibilities. And I do think it's about time that takes place.
Well, thank you. This has been excellent information. And hopefully we can get the word out before the deadline for people to register for speaking up before January 21st.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
for having us.
Christina and Lori. It's been a pleasure.